So welcome to this From Lab to Market event. My name is Tom Byman. I'm from Alta Ventures program. I'm sure most of you know what Alta Ventures program is, but for those of you who don't, it's the entrepreneurship education program here at Alta University, where we help Alta students to think and build like entrepreneurs, and we aim for sustainability through entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs are kind of known for their adaptivity and pitching skills, and that's what brings us here today, to learn how to communicate the value of your research better, to prepare for big events like Slush, and to understand the VC's point of view. Today we'll start with some tips from the co-founder of Science Pictures, Tarek Omran, move on to a lesson by business coach and commercialization specialist Rasmus Basilier, and finish off with a presentation from Kasper Somlainen from Superhero Capital. During the talks, feel free to write any questions you have to the Q&A box on the right-hand side of the screen. Our speakers will then try to answer as many as they can after all the presentations. Any technical issues or questions, feel free to ask in the chat, and the AVP team will try to help you the best we can. All right, let's get to it. Tarek, stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Tommy, and thank you so much for bringing us all here together. We were having a technology check very recently, and I was asked if I have a PowerPoint. I unfortunately do not. I've had my fair share of PowerPoints, and I have to say that not always that we get PowerPoints that any power or point. So for that, I thought maybe this talk, let's think about why do we do the things that we do, and hopefully we're going to take a very nice session, and at some point, please throw me your comments and questions towards the end of the talk. So without further ado, I'd like to begin by asking you guys to go down memory lane for a memory that we all of us have in common. All of us, maybe except for Rasmus. And that is, do you guys remember the first time you were taught how to tie your shoe? Like, just think about it. It's a memory we all share. And the way we were taught, do you guys remember where you were or who was teaching you that? And do you guys remember the words they were using? They didn't tell us like, form an arch that's 45 degrees and get the loop around that in a 360-degree motion. No, it was really toned down. You know, they told us, all right, listen, little child, you're walking around tripping on your own shoelaces. This is how you do it. Bunny ear around the elephant ear goes in together. And I think this was probably the first time we experienced firsthand the beauty of communicating something that is complex, but in a language that's understandable to a 5, 6, or 7-year-old. Now, the reason why I said not Rasmus is because, unlike us mortals, Rasmus Basilier, if you guys don't know, does not like shoes. And he has these weird things. Maybe he'll tell you about it in the talk, but he's immortal. He's not just like all of us here today. And I think we can take that example a little bit forward, because I come from academia myself, and I was doing a PhD, and the theme of my topic was multi-layered dental composite structures and the fracture behavior when they are used in a biomimetic approach. Now, sell that to an investor. I give you whatever you want, but it's such a dry topic. Of course, it's very close to my heart, but just going out there to the world with my research, my biomimetic approach with the multi-factor, like, it doesn't work. So being the researcher that I am, and all of us here are from academia, and you know, we like to do things systematically. And so I've been researching, why do pitches succeed? Like, what's the science behind a pitch? And of course, in every research, you need a lab rat. And in this story, the lab rat was one of my friends. His name is Khalil. If you can do that already, you're halfway through to get your investment. So my friend Khalil is actually a very talented dentist, and he was doing his PhD. And I told him, all right, Khalil, we have a model, and what we need to do is first to go out there in the world and to actually speak. And there was a competition called the 3-minute thesis competition. And Khalil, he was so brave. He just went out there. He said, you know what? We don't need no model. We'll just go out there and we'll talk about our zirconia implants that are put in patients' mouths. long story short, Khalil went on stage. Imagine, guys, there was 40 people competing. And when Khalil went there, it was terrible. It was absolutely horrible. Like, he bombed, so to say. And after this experience, Khalil would never want to go back on stage at all. And I've been trying to tell him, okay, how about this model? Let's try the model. And he said, no, Tariq, this is not for me. You see, I have a grant application, and also there's this thing we're doing with the lectures, and then I have the students to teach. Like, I absolutely do not have time to go to a competition and speak and pitch. And, I know there's awards, there's a lot of money, but maybe it's not for me. And finally, he agreed. I had to register him myself, and he was put on the spot, and he had to try the model. And we kept developing it together a lot. And funny enough, he didn't just win those competitions in Finland, but he was also able to compete against 27 different European countries and still win using that model. And I think more than winning, we wanted to share that idea. We want to share that thought to our fellow researchers, because all of us have great things in our hands. We have great things going on in the lab, but we're just not getting it out there. And we have to say that 1,000 pitches later, that's how many trainees we've had, we've seen great success. We've seen beautiful stories, how people are actually going out there very courageously, and they're able to talk about their innovations and get the customers, get the stakeholders, and get the investors to really buy into it. And so I would like in this talk to tell you the top 4 things that we have learned after training 1,000 people. So what are the things that work, and how we've been seeing it manifest into the stages. And you guys know Slush is coming up soon, and there will be lots of stage time, whether on stage or even off stage, with very interesting people that you would definitely want to partner with. So the first thing, I'll have to recall the same story about the person who's, okay, not you, Rasmus, but for all of us here today who have been learning how to tie our shoes. If you guys remember, do you guys remember when you were taught how to tie your shoe? Why did you keep doing it? And I know it's personal. I know every one of us here has a different answer. I would like you to think of that answer. Say it out loud in your head. What was your reason? Like, why did you keep doing it? Okay, you know that the elephant and the bunny ear, they go around, but why did you keep doing it? And funny enough, we have very different reasons. At least one of my friends said, I keep tying my shoe today, Tariq, because I want to be looking good. Like, when I was young and I had those great sneakers, I used to just tuck in the laces in the shoe, and it looked shabby. It did not look nice. So as a 7-year-old friend, he was thinking that it would look nicer tying it. I myself had very different reasons. The reason why I continued tying my shoe to this very day is not to trip over my laces. That's like as pragmatic as it sounds. It's not too fancy. It's not about looking good, but it was a practical reason. I used to always trip. And I was like, all right, Tariq, why you tripping? It's about time you start learning how to tie your shoe. And that's exactly the point, is that each and every one of us has something that's different. They buy in for different reasons. And that was the first thing that we saw the best pitchers do. They spend enough time to know what's in it for the audience. Why would they want to buy into my product? Why do they want to support my research? What's in it for them? And I think the underlying thing, just like with the shoe, it's to understand that each and every one of us is unique. And each and every audience is unique. Whether it's an investor, it's a VC, is it an angel investor? Or who are the stakeholders? Are you talking to somebody from the government? Or are you talking to just customers? So that's the thing. Each and every one of them is unique. The second thing that we learned in the journey, and that was, I would say, maybe it was very profound to see it, because it touches so many layers of us as humans. And that was solopreneurs. If you guys are familiar with this term, people who work alone, for some reason, they don't really get a buy-in. And I think one of the underlying reasons here is usually a one-man show is a no-go to investors. They often like to see a team, because they want to invest in leaders of tomorrow. You guys are all visionaries. You guys are all coming from the labs, going to the markets. And you're doing something very different. So having one person waving a flag and running in that battlefield. Imagine that, like guy with the flag and followers are behind him. That is a guy you want to bet on. That is a guy you want to invest in. But then if that guy has no team, if that leader is waving a flag but has no followers, then maybe, just maybe, that flag is a red flag. And that's why we realize that it's not about really selling the theme of your innovation, but it's selling the team. Collectively, who are you as a unit? You see, in the business world, people look at research. They look at something called, like how many startups fail and how many of them succeed. They look at something called pivot. And pivoting your business is like, you come up with an innovation, you say, this is our market, this is our product, and then suddenly you just pivot and you go somewhere else. You go to another market, or even sometimes with a totally different product. And people who are able to pivot are agile, resilient teams. And that's why people are often very attracted to strong teams. And that's something that also pitchers are, the best pitchers are able to highlight that. Like, we are the group you want to bet your chips on, because it touches on an underlying theme for all of us humans, is that we create things together. That's the reality of us as humans. This is what makes us human. We do things together. And so if you're able to demonstrate this, you're definitely going somewhere. All right. And the third thing that we learned, which is structure. And that is exactly the model that we've been working on. We saw how important it is to have a model. I mean, okay, sure, we're talking about the team and we know the audience is very unique, but what do we say? And of course, we spend about, like, is it a 2 to 3 hours long? It's a workshop that we usually do. And I really wanted to share with you the model. So I'm going to do it in 2 minutes. Of course, I won't be doing it justice, but I'll walk you through it. So if you have a pen and paper, I think it's about time you write down this. And I think it could help you a lot in the future. It is CIA FBI. Profound, right? Tell me about it. All right, I'll break it down. It's an acronym. CIA FBI stands for, the C stands for captivate. The best pitchers were actually the ones that always have a captivation, and right from the beginning, they walk into stage and they grab everyone's attention. They talk, for example, like they can drop you a shocking statistic about the market size, or about how big of a problem they are addressing. Or even they can ask a question like, okay, how many of you guys today had a cup of water in the morning? Well, guess what? 2 billion people don't have that commodity. It's not that easy for them to access. So, like something to set the theme. And I think after setting the theme, it's very important to not get too abstract. And that's where the I comes in. The intent is like, okay, I'm going to be talking about water. Might as well have a filter product and not really be talking about mermaids later on. Like my innovation needs to be very solid, and my maybe the topic, the theme needs to all be very coherent. After the A, we saw that the best pitchers were the ones who attack the problem. They're able to attack the problem from different angles. And it's not just a list of problems. Like, you're not like, all right, there's these problems and there's these solutions. No, there's a lot of finesse in it. Attacking the problem is what you need to do. Different angles, like, what does this mean and for who, and how is it bad, and how about this other side of the same problem, but it actually touches more of us in this room. And the more you're able to attack the problem from different angles, this little exercise allows you to connect to different types of people with different types of problems. After attacking the problem, then comes the real talk. We need facts, figures, findings. So this is what we need to do right now. Is like, this is a pitch, and you're talking to people who talk numbers. So what is your market size? What is your product looking like? Do you already have beta testers? And how does that look like? So all these things are something you would want to incorporate into your pitch. The facts, figures, and findings, right? Let's talk like numbers. And then the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is like, it's something that's done with finesse, because when you get technical, you still want to have people know what's the point. What was the bigger picture? Like, how does it relate to you, and then your team, and then the society, and then like all of us? Like, what does it mean? And last but not least, and the FBI is actually the I, which is the impact. Can you leave an impact before leaving the stage, before leaving the talk? Can you share your values with the world? We are now here trying all the time to find meaningful things. And that really gets me to the last point, and the fourth thing that we realized is that, you know, this is very, very interesting. We talked about us mortals and Rasmus being an immortal, but I think we can a little bit take a step back and let's assume that we had a perfect pitch for an investor. We talked about the numbers, the facts, the figures, the problem, and all of that. And we talked about our team. We know that the investor is very unique, and we know his little thing, what's in it for him. But if there's two of us, if there's another competition, if there's another startup, and they're doing the same thing, they're communicating the same exact way, what separates the best from the crowd? And that was something that Ernest Becker, a prominent psychologist in the 20th century, called the immortality project. For us humans, it's leaving a legacy. Apparently, if you have two great products, an investor will always lean to the one that is more meaningful. And a very deep psychological thing is because apparently us as humans, we're all aware that we're going to leave this world one day. And hence, we want to leave something behind. And an investor is a human too. Yes, he likes numbers, but at the same time, they want meaningful projects. And immortality project is such a profound idea because it says that each and every one of us here has an immortality project and has been doing it. Whether it's designing an artwork, whether it's actually researching and publishing papers, because guess what? If you leave, those papers are here to stay. You actually left something behind, and that is your immortality project. Will you start a business? Will you be another Steve Jobs who until this very day people talk about him? Will you create something like the ancient Egyptian pyramids? I'm from Egypt, and I think ancient Egypt was all immortality projects. Even in Finland, we have an immortality project that we go and say, Lisa Lolua. Sauna is an immortality project. We might not know who exactly created sauna, but we know that the sauna is here to stay. That is an immortality project. And you guys won't believe what also could be an immortality project. Something so basic. Each and every one of you here today, when they learned how to tie their shoes, they were someone else's immortality project. That person who taught you how to tie your shoe knew, even if it's on an unconscious level, on a subconscious level, they knew that you will outlive them. And they wanted you to walk this world without tripping. And they tried to give you something positive behind. And this is what each and every one of us here today is trying to do. We're trying to do something beautiful, something in our labs. And I am here today to urge you and to encourage you to go out there to the world, pursue your immortality project, because we need it. We need it more than you think we do. So be brave, go out there, speak, and take your things from the lab and right into the market. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good way of tying it up in the end, Tarek. That was impressive.
My pleasure, Rasmus. Well, you don't wear shoes, so
Yeah,
you couldn't relate.
Yes, Rasmus, you're up next, and it seems you're all ready to go.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Tarek, for that. That was really cool. I was actually, Tarek is a good storyteller. And I mean, part of his thing when he's telling you is that when you're able to tell a good story that captivates, that lives on. Maybe now the next time you look at your shoes trying to tie them, you'll be like, Tarek told me about this. So if you can get to that point, you can. Tarek didn't start like this. And Khalil, who is his friend, is actually a very, very good talker. I didn't know this story because me and Tarek and Khalil know each other. I didn't know that he struggled so much in his first, because Khalil to me is like a perfect pitcher type of person. So apparently this is learned, it's not just inherent. All right, and let's see here if I can share my screen, possibly. Let's see. There we go. And let's see if we can do it large or not. Where's the button? Start presentation. Oh, wow. Okay, I can't see you guys now. I know I'm just on a laptop, so it might be the issue, but can you see my screen? Can you see the big thing here in the conference? I need some feedback because I can't see you or hear you. No. then I'll do it different. You can see something. I need feedback from somebody, guys, because I can, when I'm sharing, I can't see it.
Rasmus,
Yes.
it worked before. So if you can
Excellent.
share
All right.
again.
Now you see the whole screen. All right, so
Yep.
if you're writing something in the chat, please write. I'll be happy to get some feedback. And this is going to go very fast. So even if I can't take your questions now as I'm talking, because I can't see them, I can take them up in the Q&A. So it's really good if you just write them. We can take them later. So this is Win the Conference with me, and 9 tips to be at your best, plus tips. There's more than 9 tips. It's a lot of stuff. And we're talking conferences because Slush is coming up, and that's what this topic is about. This one, Active Campaign, had a quite good conference tip thingy. So if you want to get deeper into the subject, it's really good to check that out. So I've based some of my stuff on what they say there, but a lot of personal stuff as well. First of all, you need to know your objective. When I go to a conference, my objective is always to, let's say like this. Let's say I want to have a job. Let's say I would like, okay, let's say I would like to work in the energy sector. So I'd like to work for Fortum or something like this. Or I want to work as a data analyst. Like I know something I want to work with. And my objective of this is to get me closer to get a job. You will not get a job like, hey, nice to meet you, here's a job. You will not get the job at the conference. But if that's your objective, you have to adjust your whole thing to your objective. Or I've come as a startup, I'm looking for funding, I'm looking to the end goal of this conference is at some point get funding from an investor, or it is to find a nice partner, or I'm selling to somebody, or I'm maybe buying something. The objective has to be extremely clear. That's what I want to go through, because it colors your whole experience. If the objective, like I can say my worst, I was in Slush the other, before Corona, that was the worst Slush I've ever been to, because I didn't even really have an objective. I was there, I was like meeting some people, checking out some stuff, and I was at some point after, like I was just wandering around. It's like, why am I here? I was like, if the objective isn't super clear, you will waste your time. And these conferences usually cost money. So objective has to be clear. All right, the thing is, okay, that was, of course, yes, objective, of course. I have to have a reason to go there. I'm not dumb. I know why I'm going there. I need to get something from this object. Okay, good. The question in the conference is not so much about what is happening there. It's like, who can help you get you to your objective? Because you will not get the job, you will not get the funding, or you will not get that client to sign with you on the conference. That's not how conferences work. So you got to figure out who can help you get closer to that end goal. It's an individual. So for example, if you know I'd like to work at Telia, then finding somebody who works at Telia is a good start. So you use these conference tools to find out who's going, and you find out who works at Telia. You need to, and also you can make a profile. For example, now I made a simple profile. Person should work at Telia. That's who I'm looking for. Or maybe person works at large Finnish corporate, which is like a much larger, anyway, it's larger, but it is still a somewhat clear persona. Preferably they work in HR, or they're a team manager or something like this, preferably. So you see, I'm a little bit narrowing it down who I'm looking for, but I know who I'm looking for. So if I say, oh, I stand in the queue for the PricewaterhouseCoopers ice cream in Slush, and I would ask you, so hey, what do you do? Yeah, I'm a low-level accountant. I'm like, that's great. Have a nice day. Hey, how about you? What are you doing? Like, I don't need to talk with some low-level accountant or somewhere. Well, of course I can talk with him, but it doesn't take me further to my goal. So I need to know who I'm looking for. So when somebody says, hey, I'm working at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I'm like, oh, is that so? Very nice. Let's talk. So what do you do there? Well, I'm a team manager. Oh, is that so? You see that there's, you know who you're looking for, and you try to find them. And I talk randomly in the ice cream queue, but you use these tools. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but you use these tools. So where do you want to go? What's your objective? Super important. Then you try to connect with them before the conference. Because what happens if you've ever done this before, well, it happened to me as well. You start the conference is in now, Slush is in 2.5 weeks or something. So Slush is in 2.5 weeks. If I get an email now about Slush, I'll read it and respond. If I get it next week, I'll read it and respond. If I get it on Monday before Slush is on Wednesday. If I get it on Monday, I might read it, but I'm already thinking I'll have to travel and pack my stuff and go. On Tuesday, in my case, I'm already going to Helsinki. I'm already going to events. I don't have time. I don't have time to respond if it's 2 days before. You lost me. And I'm not even that busy of a person. Think if it's somebody who actually is busy, it will be much harder. So connect with them in advance and do it now. If it's Slush that you're thinking about, do it now. If it's some other conference, find who you want to talk with and connect with them now. Talk with them. LinkedIn is great for that. Slush, for example, any conference is a certain amount of time. If they're large, there are more booths and talks than you could ever manage. For example, you might have Slush, I think you have 3 stages going on simultaneously. So you can only go to one stage and the 2 others you will miss. It's designed in such a way that there's more content there than you could ever take in. So you have to plan. Otherwise, you'll be like me in the last Slush where I'm walking around and, oh, that's a nice booth. And oh, that's so nice. Should I listen to that? It's middle of, I don't know if I'm going to listen to that thing. And I just moved around. Oh, ice cream. I stand in the ice cream queue again. Took half an hour to get an ice cream. So you have to plan. If you don't plan, you'll come out after and be like, this wasn't that useful. Why are everybody going to these conferences? Because you didn't plan. What do you want to do? Who do you need to meet? You are connecting with them, and otherwise you're planning what talks and workshops and booths do I want to go to. And I would even plan it like this: prioritize. You prioritize meeting people that are planned before, meeting people that you try to meet there. You try to find them. Then specifically booths that you want to see and booths and talks you want to talk with. They are second-hand, completely second-hand to meeting people and in some form. They're completely second, and then comes sleep in the 5th place. Of course, you need to sleep, but these other things are more important, in my opinion. You can't be too tired. We'll get to that. So should you be open-minded? I will say yes, I'm an open-minded person, but you should also be closed-minded. It means that there will be too many activities, too many things to choose from. And if you are clear what you want to do, it's easier for you to say no to some things. Not everything is equally valuable. So be open-minded for the things you're looking for. Be open, like this is the kind of area of thing I'm looking for. And when you talk with person, even that accountant that I talked about, that's not relevant for me, I should still talk like 5 minutes. See what you're up to, why you're here, what's going on, where do you work, tell me more about yourself. What are you looking for today in this conference? What's your objective of being here? And just have a conversation. Who knows? It can lead somewhere. So be open-minded, but you need to also realize I can't go to everything. So what am I saying no to? You can't be open to everything because you'll just break. That happened to me in my first Slush. I had too many things to do. Priority straight, yeah. So time is not on your side. That's what I talked about. Now let's get to the tips. First of all, avoid your friends. Don't talk. Like I got to check my timer. Yeah, I have some time. Don't talk with your friends. If you meet your friend, hey Tarek, nice to see you. You're having here. Cool. What are you doing? What are you looking for? You're looking for this. Yeah, I saw that booth. I think you would like booth 5. It'd be great. I'll catch up with you later. Have a good one, Tarek. See you later. That's how you do with your friends. If a friend you haven't seen in a while, that could also be like, hey, like John, I haven't seen you so long. Nice to see you. What's been going on? And you can maybe talk 10 minutes. But if he's not taking you further to your objective, you say, hey, nice, we take a coffee maybe tomorrow or something if you're still in the area, even though the conference is over. Or maybe you can say you can meet later in the evening or something. But a close friend, don't spend time on them at all. An old friend, spend some time on them. A new friend, absolutely spend time with somebody new you to meet. But avoid your friends. Tip 1. You know what? I've seen these people walk around with their friends like arm in arm more or less and looking at booths and stuff. I'm like, you are not learning shit because you're just talking with each other and you're not meeting anybody. You're not open-minded in the areas you're supposed to look at. You're kind of just sipping in the atmosphere and then you go home. You're like, yeah, it was a nice conference. I was there. That doesn't count. That sucks. Don't do that. Find a side event. In any big event, there are always events that are around this. And in my experience, and a lot of what I heard is that they are better. So the conference works like a sun, like a field of gravity that pulls in all kinds of shit. And most things ended up in the sun and makes it bigger. But some things just start going around in a circle, like planets. And Earth is a very amazing planet, which is more interesting than the sun. So think about these conferences that there are other activities happening there around that are smaller, but more targeted to your objective. So find the events that are going on and try to get into them. Especially because they're usually somewhat tangent to what you're looking for. And even if they're not exactly what you're looking for, you will have more time to talk with the people there than in a normal conference. So side events are really important, and some of them are hidden. So that means that you have to ask people, hey, what's up? Oh, Tarek, nice to see you. Cool, I didn't know you were here. What are you doing here? What's your objective? And say, hey, by the way, Tarek, did you see are there any like after parties or side events that you are aware of? And he might tell you. So you ask that to people, both friends and new people. There's a good conversation starter, by the way. Hey, have you heard any cool after events going on today? Or side events, have you heard? In Slush case, they have a list as well of side events, but some of them are secret. So you have to ask for them. Have business cards. You know, people say, oh, you can use my phone. I can go to LinkedIn. Hey, nice to meet you, Ollie. Cool to talk with you. Should we connect? Let's connect again. LinkedIn, put the button here. Did I lose your attention? I think so, because this is fucking boring. You got to have a card because you're having a physical interaction. Hey, here's my card. Please check it out. And if they don't have a card, I type up a second card and I write down, could you please write your username and phone number or email on this card so I can easily connect with you? And they will write it down nicely. Bring business cards. Same, bring a notebook and a pen. There are two reasons. One is that when you meet somebody, even if they have a business card and they give it to you, but even worse if they don't, it's hard for you to remember everything because you might meet 100 people, 200 people in this event, maybe more. So it just becomes a blur. The first one is sharp, third one, second one, third one. When you meet the 17th person, like, were they working for, what were they working for? What was he doing? I remember he had he had blue hair. Like you lose it, so you need to write it down. And that goes to this number 5, is that you take notes during the event. For example, you can go to the bathroom, take notes. I'm a big note taker on pen and paper. You can look at the research on that, but taking notes on the phone is not as good. Take it in pen and paper. There's a reason for that. But also in the evening, when you come home, for example, if you're going to some after party, you come home, you come to your hotel room, you change your clothing for the after party, you take notes. What happened today? What was important? Look at the business cards. Check which was important, which was not important. Write some notes that I had to remember this. You write that down. Then you go to the after party. When you come home at 2 p.m, you do the same thing. You're like, oh, wow, what was the interesting people I met there? Take notes. Yeah, because that's another thing about the side events. The evening ones as well. I had my best interactions, best business-related interactions on the evenings, not in the day. So it's not. So they are very important to go to. Also the evening activities, because people are more relaxed and you get more out of it. Checking the time here. Make time to take notes. Yeah, bring a backpack. This is just a little extra tip. It's kind of, you're gonna get a lot of free stuff. Like ice cream, you'll eat that, but you'll get like flyers and boxes and toys and drinks and all kinds of stuff. And it can be nice just to have a little backpack. I have this one strap. We call it like a bag, but this is good to have. The backpack is nice. You can have it on your because there's a lot of stuff in the conference that you need to pick. And I mean, you have to have your notebook somewhere. Water is nice to have, depending on where you are, if they have free water or not. So, and snacks, because if you're on a budget, I mean, they know, they're like, hey, you can have like this big hamburger for like 21 euros. You're like, this is ridiculous. And they're like, are you hungry or not? Are there any alternatives here in the conference? I don't think so. Supply and demand, baby. Pay up. And it's not even that good of a hamburger. So you can bring some snacks in your backpack too. Yes. Don't use your phone. Don't use your phone. You have to call people yes, but like, don't use your phone. If you're standing in line, the time is running here. And what are you going to do on your phone anyway? Are you going to answer important emails in the freaking conference while your people around you trying to interact with you? You know what I do when I see a person like this? I ignore them because they don't want to talk with me, because they're busy with their fucking phone, because they're more in love with the phone than the people around them. Yes, I have a phone with me, but I don't use it in the conference. That's if I notice and I have my own issues with the phone like you all do. If I notice I'm on my phone, I'm like, this is wrong. Why am I not doing anything interactive? Why am I doing this? In last case, it was because my objective wasn't clear. So me spending time on my phone was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Then the phone becomes an option. So make your objective clear, get your priorities straight, and get rid of, don't use your phone during the conference. Only in emergency cases where you really have to do something. Otherwise, leave the phone in your pocket. Connect with business cards. Write notes. Yes. About the schedule, again, you might think, you look at this amazing schedule of all the things you can do, and you're getting like, oh wow, I love to hear about that, and I love to see, oh, there's so many good things, and also have these good people. And I've done this in the past. I think of, well, I can do this in 8 in the morning, because like I go this and then I'm gonna go to sleep like this, and I go to 8. I usually end up in a situation like this is me, at least personally. I should never schedule a meeting at 8 because I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be, even if I'm there, I'm just going to be irritated and tired. I should schedule my first meeting like at least at 10. Because I had, I had to wake up, eat something, then get dressed, get there, because you maybe have to take a bus or something to get to the actual venue. So just make sure that don't schedule things against your own nature, because you're just going to get irritated by yourself. This might be just me. Last tip that I have here, this is I've seen, I think it was an investor or somebody. I think he had a balloon tied to his clothing that was saying like money here, like an arrow or something. So do you think if you talk with somebody you meet somebody, hey, but did you see that this guy had a balloon? And they're like, yeah, that's so weird, like this guy with the balloon. Everybody remembers you if you're clever with your outfit. You can have a weird hat, have a balloon, have a cool, very, very strange shirt, something that stands out. It works because most people don't stand out. And you might even become famous. Like, oh, did you see the guy in the gorilla suit? He's actually, he actually is from a startup. Because the standing out, it has a point anyway. I'm not saying you all have to do it. I'm just saying it works. If you really want to have people talk with you, it's easier to do something like that. And that's it. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, by the way. It's Rasmus Basilier. I can put it in the chat, but I love to stay in touch with you guys, and looking forward to seeing you guys if you're coming to Slush.
So, hey everyone, my name is Casper, and I'm an investment manager at Superhero Capital. And today I want to talk to you about what's a VC and really understanding the investor mindset. Yeah, maybe quickly about us. We're an early stage VC based here in Helsinki, and we mainly invest in Finland. And in short, you could say that, oh, there we go. Superhero Capital is the founders, what Alfred is the Batman, the help from behind the scenes. And this is how we view our role as a VC here. But enough about us. Today, we're going to go through two things. So understanding the VC model, I'll go through an example of, how a VC fund is gathered in essence, and what you really need as entrepreneurs and to be entrepreneurs to think about and understand from kind of the VC's perspective. And then why is this important? So if we look at understanding the VC model first, then let's go to why this is important. So kind of the biggest difference that's good to understand between different types of investors is the basic difference between an angel and a VC. Now, an angel investor is someone, typically a wealthy individual who invests in very, very early stage startups, and they're investing their own capital. And this is really key, because angel investors can invest in whatever they want, however they want, with no rules whatsoever, except for the ones that they have put onto themselves. While VCs are investing someone else's capital. So it's not their capital, but it's someone else's. These can be investment banks or funds of funds, family offices, pension funds, or wealthy individuals' capital. So this is kind of the basic separation to understand what's the difference between a VC and an angel. So now that we know that VCs are investing someone else's capital, what VCs typically are, they're generalists. So essentially VCs see, thousands of companies a year, and they know a bit about everything. The difference to entrepreneurs is that most entrepreneurs know a lot about this one particular thing. So when you're talking to a VC, especially if you have a research-based innovation that's coming out of the university, for example, remember that VCs are generalists and entrepreneurs are the experts. So as mentioned in Tarek's talk, also know the audience that you're talking to. So if we look at a VC fund, before we go into the example of how a fund is gathered, VC funds can have different qualities. There are kind of four characteristics of VC funds that separate the funds themselves. So first of all, there's the fund size. We have two funds at Superhero Capital. One is 20 million, one is 40 million. So these are kind of early stage funds, typically in the seed stage, investing tickets around 200,000 to 1 million. Then we have bigger funds that can be 100 million funds that are investing in a bit later stage, or we can have bigger into the euros or dollars. So that separates different VC funds from each other. So what are you focusing on? What do you invest in insight-driven, thematic investment focus? Insight-driven startups are startups that have a great answer to the question, what do you know that others don't? And how is your business going to be based on this in the future? You can also have a B2B software-focused fund. You can have a cybersecurity-focused fund, a VR-focused fund, a deep tech-focused fund. But essentially, the size and the focus of what they're investing in is the two main characteristics that differ from one fund to another. Then it's also important to understand the lifespan of the fund. We'll get into that soon. It's essentially 10 years. But where in the lifespan of the VC fund are they investing into your company? Because that depends also when they're expecting an exit. And lastly, the profile of the fund. Essentially, this means what type of tickets they invest in and what geographical area are they investing in. We at Superhero Capital are seeds 200,000 to 1 million tickets, but you can do only A rounds, you can do tickets of 50 million and plus, or you can do tickets of 50,000. So that really depends on what you've promised to your own investors in the fund. So these are kind of the main differentiating factors that are in VC funds. And the investment cycle, you have to understand the investor mindset is a 10-year mindset. This sounds ridiculous to startups, I know, but it's a 10-year mindset where in the first 4 years, you can make the investments you're going to make. And in the last 6 years, you only invest into the companies that you've already invested in. So VCs have a very long-term mindset. Remember, they're generalists. They know a lot about everything, but most of them are really not experts in a lot of different things. They know a lot about everything, but you're the one who's the expert in the customer problem and the market. And remember the cycle. So why is this important? There are different types of funds, different focuses, different profiles, different sizes. Why is it important to understand the investor mindset? It's because you need to know who you're talking to. So let's go through an example. These are ballpark figures. Every fund is different. This is not our fund. This is not any fund in Finland, but let's take a hypothetical example of a 50 million fund where you're applying for a 1 million investment from this fund. So how does it actually go? What really motivates VCs? So how the fund is gathered is that VCs are kind of like startups in a way. They have a team and they need a fund. Say, okay, we want a 50 million fund. We have a team, we have this expertise. This is our fund size, 50 million. We want to focus on this, invest in this stage. And VCs go to limited partners, LPs, we call them, and pitch, essentially like a startup as well. Hey, give us money and we'll invest like this. We'll give you 1 of 50 back, and then you'll get it back. This is the short premise of how a VC fund is and works. So if we start looking at this, essentially the 10 years and the 50 million, if we split that into the first time investments and the follow-on investments and the fees, essentially there's 20% fees 40% first-time investments, and 40% of the fund will go to follow-on investments. So as mentioned, this is a ballpark example, but it could go something like this. And if a VC invests 1 million in 20 companies, then they might invest the rest into 8 of those 20 companies, the follow-on investment reserves. So let's say that you're raising 1 million from this fund. You're an entrepreneur, or to be entrepreneur, you're raising your first round, and you're like, okay, I want to raise 1 million. And you end up raising 1 million, and the company exits for 100 million. Typically, VCs own about, I'd say, 10%, or 5 to 20% of exit, but let's go for simplicity's sake with 10%. So 100 million exit, 10% for a VC. All right, that's great. It's a 10x exit. The party is on, right? Everything went smoothly. Then if we look at what the investors have promised their LPs, 10 million is only 6.7% of the target return. It's very little, and for the entrepreneur, 100 million exit would be a lot. But remember to look at this from the VC's perspective as well. So this practically means that nearly all returns are going to come from one company. And towards the end, I'll open up the question, that one question that it really boils down to when you're applying funding or from a VC. So nearly all returns come from one company. So this means that your 10x exit is in between places 2 and 3. So essentially, it's not returning the fund. There are 19 investments left, and this was a miss from the VC's perspective. Okay, well, what if it would be tenfold? So let's say it would be a 1.5 billion exit. What happens then? 10% of 1.5 billion is 150 million. That returns the fund. This is a great exit. The unfortunate thing is we haven't calculated dilution yet. So when other investors come in later rounds, the previous investor shares get diluted if they don't have enough capital to invest more. So let's say they get diluted for simplicity's sake by half. So if they can dilution, a 3 needed in order for the 50 million fund to return 150 to the investors. Now, what does this boil down to then? Why is this important? Why is this important to understand and the time frame, and how does this relate to what motivates VCs? Is this there's one question when you take out all the layers of the onion and look at the core of what is the VC thinking? What question are they trying to answer when they're looking at your team? Is this team going to give me this? Is this that one team out of every other team that's walked through that door? Can they give me this? And remember, you're not only competing for investment with companies that are your competitors, you're also competing for investment with every single other company in that market that's walking through that same VC's door. And then if we flip it to your side, the entrepreneur side, when the VC is asking, is this team going to give me this? You should also be asking yourself, can I pull off a 3 billion exit? If you're raising 1 million from a 50 million fund. And I don't want to, scare you guys off or anything. And as we know, most startups never reach a 3 billion exit. 99% don't. But when the VCs are evaluating the company, this is the question at the end of all the other questions that they want to answer. Is this team going to return our fund? Thank you.
Yeah, that VCs require like that much more return for their investment. It's good to know. At this point, we have some time for audience questions. I see it there on the chat at the moment. You can still write some questions there if you'd like. We have some time for them. While we wait for possible audience questions, do you speakers have any questions for each other? Maybe you'd like at this point, or comment on other people's presentations?
I just remember the tying the shoe example. I think that's gonna stick with me for the rest of my life. So thank you, Tarek, for that.
Sticky presentation, Tarek. Very sticky. Thank you, Casper, for your presentation as well. I had a question for you, Casper, because I'm working on this project now with Slush specifically.
Yeah.
And I was curious about how it feels and what is the best way to break through in a good way when you are at the conference as an investor and people are targeting you.
Yeah. That's a great question. I think, as you mentioned, that you're meeting 100 different people at a conference, 200 different people. Well, for investors, they're most likely meeting 100 different startups. So essentially, when you have your 2 to 5 minutes of time, how are you going to be memorable? Are you going to have the gorilla outfit on, or how are you going to be memorable compared to every single other startup that's walked through that door? And there are a few ways to be memorable. The best way is traction. So if you have paying customers, that's like it's a great way to be memorable.
So you hear somebody pitching and they be like, "Yeah, we've got 50,000 users paying." What?
Yeah, exactly.
How many paying?
Exactly. Yes, and the second best is users, so people who are not paying but using. And facts, figures, and data can help to a certain extent, and especially traction helps, but it's also really about the story. And the key is to tell your story in a way that when the VC leaves and meets his or her friends or partners or colleagues, whoever, 2 weeks later, they're able to talk about it. And that's how you're memorable, by pitching it in a way that you're able to talk about. We're going to be talking about the damn shoelaces with other people now.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
memorable. So exactly the same way as Tarek did it.
I have one team that I work with now, the STEM site, they work with, they can make blind people see. And I'm like, that's enough for me. Like, holy shit. That's like, what? I can never forget that now.
Yeah. And it's easy to tell forward. It's short and concise.
Yeah. Apparently how they do it is extremely complicated, but I skipped that part.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge with a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially kind of research-based entrepreneurs, is that you're so deeply focused into that one thing that remember, you're talking to a generalist. You're not supposed to explain what you're actually doing, every single detail. You're supposed to give the best parts out. You're asking out on a date, not get married yet. Yeah. So
I think that's a good one. Keep it short and sweet. And the thing is, like what Casper says, correct me if I'm wrong, but you might say, "Hey, I'm selling blah 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 blah, and we have 50,000 registered users." He'd be like, you'd ask me, "Wait, tell me what you're selling again." But if you're saying, "Oh, I have this thing and it's doing this and this and this and this and this," I'm like, "Yes, but is anybody using it?" Because that's like a threshold. Is anybody interested at all? Then I will be interested. But if nobody's interested, why? Like, it's not ready for venture or any type of capital. I think almost. Yeah. Well, we got some questions here from Jana. Could you give an example of a seed funding, an amount, in what state to apply, etc.? That's a question from the chat here.
Yeah. Maybe one example from my side would be seed depends on where you are in the world. Well, what I've seen, that seed can be 3 million in Silicon Valley. But if we look at the region and Slush and the Nordics and the Baltics, a seed round is typically somewhere in between 200,000 to, I'd say, 600, 700,000. It can go up to 1 million as well. And the stage is you probably have some pilot customers, maybe a bit of revenue. You haven't found product market fit, but you have something to show, something to sell, and someone who's giving you feedback on it, whether it be kind of knowledge or money, and they're actually paying for your product. But I wouldn't get, as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't get too kind of tied up to, am I raising a seed round, or now we've heard seed plus, there's a bridge round, there's pre-series A, series A. I don't get tied into that. Get tied into how much money you need, what are you going to use it for, and how is that going to help you go to the next level in building your business towards the big vision. We can call the rounds what we want. They were there for simplicity's sake, A, B, C, D, but I mean, it's.
Did somebody say rounds?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I was having some technical issues.
No worries, no worries. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, keep going.
No, but yeah, that was about it. Just quickly about, explaining about a typical seed round. Then if you and an angel round is somewhere in between 20 to 100K, I'd say the most typical ones.
Thank you. And then we have Mika here that they'd like to meet us in Slush, but only we can help him. And he's looking for an angel investment for the steel innovation. So, by the way, you can find all the angel investors, like Finnish Business Angels, are freely sharing who they are and what they work with. And I think like 90% or even more of all business angels are connected with that type of environment. So, if you specifically want an angel investor, just check there. And if they're not there, and also you can check the Slush pages and stuff, but. That's your best bet, that you find them in before, because they are busy there. They will not remember you. That's what I would say.
Actually, if you're looking for at Slush, I would also consider, like Erasmus said, don't find your friends. I would also consider Finnish people friends as well. So try to meet the angel investors from abroad, someone you don't have access to here in Finland. But if you're trying to meet a Finnish investor, I mean, you can do that on the second week of December as well. So and FIBAN, Finnish Business Angels Network, is right around the block here as well. So focus on finding angels that you don't have geographical access to first, and after you've scoured them, go get closer to your geographical area.
Yeah, good tip.
I'd
like to get. Go ahead, Tommy.
So I guess this for Casper, what should be included in a presentation shared with VCs? Should there be like data, or should the presentation be more general and direct to laymen?
You can do it in a few ways, but what I would suggest is that if you're sending an email, send a presentation. Sending a presentation with a lot of data and numbers and opening everything up is necessarily not that relevant, because if before you've met someone, the goal of the presentation you're sending is not to tell what you do, but it's to make the other person go, hey, I want to meet them. The goal of that first presentation is to get the meeting. It's not to say what you do necessarily. Just give an idea. But after you've met someone, you can send a more thorough investor presentation with, the market dynamics, why now, your detailed ask on how much money you need, where are you going to spend it. So I'd say focus on the story, and if you have numbers to back it up shortly, before you're meeting the investor, and after, then you can send a longer version.
It's like, let's say you made a new machine or something. That. Yeah, that's really good, Casper. Let's say you make a new machine, and I'm talking data. I'm thinking like, let's say there's a lot of data to show how your machine works. I want to know, is your machine, like, let's say it's 5% more effective than a normal machine. That's a good data point for me. And then you can say, we have tested it in 5 different locations, location A, B, C, and D. I think that's good enough. Like, we'll have to check later exactly how this thing works, but it doesn't matter at this point. It will come later.
Yeah, definitely. And again, we get back to the thing that people are very It's challenging for a lot of people to explain things from an outsider's perspective instead of their own perspective. So and the words and the slides you're sending and the words you're saying on stage, it's important to remember that it's not about explaining your message in the words that you would understand it if it was explained to you, but it's about explaining your message with the words that the receiver will understand. And there's a difference, if you get it. It's a bit meta here, but
Yeah.
Bunny ears.
yeah.
Big
Yeah.
ears. How about here's another question. The decision making by VC in the event after listening to a pitch of potential successful startup in the presence of other VCs, how tough is it to make? Do an individual make such a decision or a team? So you're listening to pitches or something. What happens after that if you like somebody? How does that decision process look like? I think that's the question. What's the last Q&A? Is it any Q&A questions? The last one.
Oh yeah. Do an
By
individual make
anonymous.
so does an individual make the investment decision? Or
Yeah, the Q&A, Mr. Anonymous or Mrs. Anonymous, you have to restate your question, please. So
yeah, the decision
I can try to like.
Yeah, translate.
I can try to translate. Yeah. So, the idea here is that I once had a similar question, and I hope Mr. Anonymous or Mrs. Anonymous can tell us if that's the same thing. But the question was, all right, so if I perfect my pitch and the business model, do I get the investment? And I think this was a very interesting question because, like Casper said, the main point of a pitch is just to get flowing, just to get that meeting. So the point of that short email with a little pitch deck or a little story about your product is just to get that meeting. And I think when people actually sit and meet, then that's when the real serious business happens. So if there's other VCs or not, I think decision making doesn't happen like a mix and match. Like it's not a speed dating event. I would say it's like you just need to get that spark of an interest, and then you can get to the first real date.
you, Casper, will you be the one making the decision? Let's say it's in competition and you listen to 10 pitches. How is that decision made to who to go with next to talk with a little bit more?
Essentially, the VC makes the decision, and for me, I'm in charge of deal flow for the fund, so I make it individually on the spot. But the decision necessarily is not about whether I like the case or not, but would it be a valuable investment for the fund, and is there someone else from our team that would be actually better qualified to look and evaluate this case? So kind of the first hurdle is an individual person, but after that, decisions are not necessarily unanimous, but they're talked through with the whole team. Yes, and actually, it's a few times it's happened so that I've heard from entrepreneurs that someone said, and they've gotten a warm intro to another person, and they've taken it forward, and they've gotten the investment.
From the same
Can
fund.
happen. Yes, from the same fund. So that can happen as well.
I thought you would have a wrestling match. If there's a 50-50, usually the wrestler wins.
Yeah.
So it can happen. And the question was that there are other investors and they might be interested in the same startup. I'm thinking maybe it's the competition situation. Anonymous, maybe that is the situation that more than one investor. I know this is a difficult question. I don't still really understand it.
Can I? Yeah, Casper. I don't know why I like gibberish things. I like cryptic messages. It's almost fun. But if we understand correctly, so there's more than one investor interested in that specific startup, and the question is how the decision making is happening. And I think Casper can give us a lot of insight from my if I understood the question correctly, I think you are in a very good place. If you have more than one bidder on you, you are very, very, very lucky.
Yes, indeed, and I mean with the best startups, there is always more than one bidder, and it can go two ways. So either one investor wins the deal, so they either have a better service offering, they help the startup in a certain way, or they give a better valuation. But in other cases, or in a lot of investments, there are multiple VCs participating in. especially bigger rounds. So how we view this at Superhero Capital is that if the entrepreneur, from the entrepreneur's perspective, if they would like both VCs to join, then we're happy to talk. But if there are 5 VCs looking for the same company, I mean, you have to fight it out in one way or another. And what we realized at Superhero Capital is that a lot of VCs, or a lot of kind of VCs, think that they're helping entrepreneurs, and the help that they're giving is really important. But what entrepreneurs really value is chemistry, deal terms, and speed. And those are the ones that we're trying to focus on. So the chemistry between the entrepreneur in order to win the deal speed, how fast we'll make it, so we make decisions quickly. It's no use waiting for maybe for 3 months. So either a quick yes or a quick no. And the deal terms. And I'd say those are really what it boils down to. If you want to win a deal with other competing with other VCs, but if the entrepreneur wants to, it's okay. The cap table as well. I mean, every company does when they grow big enough. Yeah.
It's a lucky situation if that ever happens. Do we have we have a question from Mikko that is it necessary to always have a tangible product or to pitch, or can it be a production process? I've never had that case.
Yeah, what do you guys think, actually?
I would say depends, really. Like, I was once with a business developer in healthcare, and it's one of the biggest healthcare organizations here in Finland. And he said, Tarek, we are interested in 2 things, either digital healthcare innovations or service innovations. So that's apparently a thing in the healthcare industry, if you have a service innovation. So it might not be really a tangible thing. It could be optimizing processes, but it makes sense because it makes money. So maybe this is something that I think it's industry related. That's my personal opinion.
I would say, let's say, like, if you have a process innovation and you have this process up and running and you're having customers and everything, it was like, yeah, this is my improved process, and it's much better than whatever been done before, but it's small scale and I need investment. Or, I mean, because otherwise it's all hypothetical. Like, then, because I'm thinking, who could make money out of you knowing that? And if they just know it, can somebody else copy it easily? I mean, it sounds like if it's just a knowledge thing, it sounds like you're a consultant. You just go and, you sell that you can improve your factory using my technique, and you can maybe make a certificate or something. You can productize it doing that. But it doesn't sound like an investable thing. But if you have it in your own company, you do. I mean, I'm thinking something like this. I don't know, Casper, if you.
Yeah, along the same lines, and I think it's good to note that you or how should I explain this? It's good to note that you'll pitch it in a way that needs to be pitched to whoever you're applying funding from. So it's different if it's Business Finland, it's different if it's a VC, it's different if it's a family office. If you have a production process in a certain industry vertical that's an industrial deep tech case, then you're not pitching it to us, for example, and yeah. So pitch it in a way that fits the receiver, yet again. And if the receiver wants to hear a product, productize it with a story, and if the receiver wants to hear the innovation behind the production process, then tell about that.
Yeah. Elisa here wants me to elaborate with the please. Okay, go ahead, Tarek, first.
Before we jump to Elisa, I googled very quickly Mikko Valkonen. I had to, and it seems like if it's the right Mikko that came on LinkedIn, you're an engineer, and this just sparked an idea that, remember, Rasmus, we were talking about this. There has been innovations in production processes that have to do with solar panels. We were working with a group earlier, me and Rasmus, and their whole bread and butter is literally shrinking down the cost of production of solar panels. So instead of being able to, the price, I think it was like, instead of having the price for one solar panel, they made it for 5, and that's insane. So if it's something like that, then yeah, Mikko, it's definitely something you can pitch. I mean, money talks at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Elisa, now some time has elapsed since I had my little rant there, but I was thinking in the lines like, if you have a production making something more efficiently, but it's not a thing, it's just you organize like these things in a different order, and it will be faster, which is great. How is that? Let's say that it's in your head, but how do you make more money from that? Because if, let's say we're talking investment now because Casper is here, but let's say Casper will give you €1 million now. Like, what do you do with that? Because you cannot put this anywhere. You don't have a factory. It's just knowledge. And if you build a factory that makes it faster or better, it's a huge, like, do you know anything else? Like, let's say it's soap, and you can make soap 5% more efficiently. You're still competing with Dove and everybody else making soap. It's just it's so much. Business is so much more than just making the process more efficiently. But you can, of course, build a business with a more efficient process. And let's say you hide that so that, yes, we will make, I think it was like McDonald's or something, like when they started, they just did hamburgers, but made the process of hamburger creation way more efficiently, which made they get a lower price for the same type of hamburger. You just got it for like half price or something. And they kept that as secret as they could. I don't think they were sharing, this is how the logistics are set up, and this is how we fought for it. No. They tried. I don't even think they showed the kitchen. Like these days, we're all about seeing through the kitchen, see what happens. I'm quite sure it was somewhat hidden, that you couldn't even see how they made the burgers, because they were trying to keep it as secret as possible. So there are ways where product process innovation makes a big difference. But how about information education? For example, Mindvalue. That's great. You can make money. Yeah, you can make money from selling your knowledge. That is true. It's not as easy. Implementation is better, but sure, you can make money out of that. I think I'm sorry, Elisa. I feel like you're having something there as like a seed of a really interesting question, but I can't find it because it's so hard with this the text-based questions. I'm sorry. I feel I'm falling short here.
Maybe I can highlight something. Mike Bradshaw has been really active with us. Thank you, Mike. And he even posted something really cool. I think we missed it. The shameless plug. For those that have a demo but not yet customers, apply before November 20. So I think this is a great opportunity for our audience today. You can check out Mike Bradshaw's comment a bit earlier.
Mike is good. He teaches you how to do this stuff.
And Mike,
we have
one last question from
something from Michael. We lost Tommy, but I think Rasmus.
Yeah, I was just saying we take one last question from the chat and then head on to the networking when you can actually chat with the participants. So if there are something you still want to elaborate on, have further chat with Elisa, you can do it there. But there was one question from Mikael. Do patents in general make VCs dance, or are those also analyzed and viewed with rational and tight judgment?
I feel bad because every question is kind of depends, but if it's very hard to pay in software. So an example would be, Snapchat stories. Instagram copied it. It's very hard to do that. So in the software business, it's not as important as if you're doing a medical tech startup. But essentially, defendability of a startup is you building a moat around your competitive advantage, and part of that can be a patent portfolio, and we do really appreciate patent portfolios as well. So I wouldn't say that there's something that we don't look at. It just tells us that you've built a deeper moat so that it's harder for competitors to come on your turf.
And if you haven't patented, if there's a good reason, like I haven't patented this because then they can copy it. It works like this. I can tell you, I can show you, I have a model, I have a demo, but I haven't patented on purpose because then the others will see and they can come around it. So that's also a moat. There's a way for the competitors not to copy because they don't know how it's done. Or if it's a patent, then they can't copy because it would be illegal here to copy it here. They can do it in other places. Okay. Was that it, Tommy?
So I think you're right. Yeah, I think then Michael's answer would be he have already had the the answer in his question, which is yes, it's probably viewed with rational tie to judgment, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. All right, but hey, we're running out of this time here, so let's move on to networking section next. Thanks, really good discussion, and I hope you all learned a lot here. So what happens next? We'll move to the networking area. So just join a table and start chatting away. There are tables for free discussion. There are tables for all our speakers. The speakers will still hang around for a while. You can ask your questions on their tables. If you're interested in learning more about sustainability topics, make sure to keep an eye on AVP's social media channels and our website, avp.aalto.fi. On my behalf, thanks everyone for joining. May your pitches be great, and maybe see you at Slush.